Police say there's been more than a dozen major traffic accidents this year involving drivers suspected of being under the influence of NOS. Rialto police suspect people are buying it here to huff instead of its common use to make cars faster.
There are 2 customers here right now who admitted that they're here to fill their NOS tanks.
Eddie was a kind of a late in life child for us. He played football in his high school years, but he was the kind of kid that just loved everybody, tried to make everybody laugh and smile. He was a comedian. He was what we would want in today's world to be the perfect person, in my opinion. My son, Myles Edward Scott, known as Eddie, was 17 years old when he was killed in a nitrous oxide related crash. The county coroner came to my house and told me that they had found a nitrous oxide tank outside of the car, and that he believed the driver had carried it about 50 feet away and disposed of it. So I went out to the crash scene that day, and most of the car crashes are as a result of people passing out while they're using it driving. And it was one of the very first cases that they could actually pinpoint nitrous oxide to an actual car crash. And looking at all these parties that were going on, we went undercover in many cases, and I ultimately tracked the tanks that Eddie and this kid had bought, and the place that they had it filled, which was in Fontana. My private investigators staked that place out for a couple months, and what we found was that it was just a mom and pop garage that at nighttime would be selling nitrous oxide. And I took all that information, went back to Washington, D.C., presented it to Congresswoman Torres and her staff, and they became quickly very interested in it. So ultimately the bill will do a study to determine what states are doing about it. They're going to look at the effects of it, try to come up with the amount of deaths, because a lot of deaths were not recorded. In many cases, parents have no clue. They think it's helium, laughing gas. You know, to parents, I would say you need to watch your kids' social media. You need to ask questions, especially as they get older. When you say that it's not that big a deal, one death is too many. So I hear what you're saying, that it's not important, that it's not a big deal, but it really is a big deal, because if it were one of your kids that died from it, you would know it is a big deal. Losing a child is like there's just a big, huge hole in you that is a vast darkness. I can still remember that to this day, sitting in a chair all night the night he was killed into the next morning, and going outside and smelling the air and thinking that, you know, the world is at an end. You know, he would be 25 years old this year, and I sit and think, what would have happened to him? Where would he be? If I could say one thing to my son, I actually would have told him 2 things. I would have asked him, are you aware of this? Have you been around it? Have you been using it? Then I would have told him the dangers of it, and then I would have told him I love him.